Hey y'all, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. Okay, here we are back to the very exciting chicken tractor on steroids done our way. Now folks, there's not a whole lot in terms of movement that's going to happen in the system today. The big thing I want to try to communicate is part of the overview and frankly a great deal more than that. Okay, let's just start back to the beginnings of it. Where did the idea come from and what's it meant to do? It was originally conceived by a genius by the name of Carl Hammer. He basically runs Vermont Compost. Jeff Lawton, another genius, went there and visited one time, got an idea of taking his chicken system and adapting it for a homestead. And so we've taken that idea years back from the very beginning when it first came out. And because we didn't necessarily have all the components that he had, we had to redo the system in a way that works for us. And we think after years of trial and getting it right, getting it wrong, that we've come up with a way, in fact, we're really convinced of it, we've come up with a way to make this system really adaptable for the homesteader. The only difference is, it's going to take more work out of you. So now let's talk about why I think this system is groundbreaking and important. For those of you that just got into this, go back and watch the first video. Folks, we don't have a lack of content, so if anybody thinks we're dragging this out, you're wrong, and we're going to prove it just like we did on the compost video up there. The problem we've done in the past and the problem I've seen with so many exposures of this system in compost making is that we all try to put it in one video when there's way too many nuanced things to communicate to make that happen. Okay, first of all, let's go through the components real quick for those that are just going in. And like I said, for those of you new to it, go back, watch the first video. It's kind of important. Okay, we got these chicks that we raised from our rooster down there, Persimmon Phil. Got them in the brooder, got them outside. They've been outside for about a week now. And as you can hear in the background, they're ready to get out. Folks, we gave you a video on how to get them back in, but now they're ready to get out and go to work in this compost pile. Now, what do we have in here? We basically have a cage that is 6 feet across and 1.5 feet high. When it's all filled up, it gives us about 1.5 cubic yards. Actually, a little bit more than that. So what happens during this first week, or what I call induction, the definition of what I'm saying induction in this system is basically the time they get out of that brooder, get into this system, and are eating 100% food scraps. Now, had these been meat birds, they'd already be out right now, but these guys grow slower and their digestive system needs a little time to catch up. So last week, we basically put a carbon layer down. Now for us, that means getting it out of the barn. There's a little bit of manure and stuff in there too. And what happens every day, every single day, we start out with a low layer, we feed them out here in this cage. So it means the chickens are gonna poop right in this area by and large. So when that happens, at the end of the day or the very next morning, we come out with what you see here. They've basically had a chance to eat all this stuff. Whatever's left over is fine. It's going to act as a nitrogen layer. And every single day for the week, we come out and we dump a new carbon layer on it. And if you're on a hill like this, you want to try to cheat it to the uphill side, because the chickens, being what they are, they're almost always going to scratch downhill. So if you're not careful, if you just stick it in the middle, it's going to wind up going over the cage. But because they scratch, in the beginning, that's exactly why we attached 1-inch hardware cloth to this. In the past, we didn't do that, and you got stuff all over the place. So we basically do this every single day. Let me get this other one in here, and then we'll talk about the next step. All right, now the next part, we got a carbon layer down. And folks, remember, this will repeat every single day. So what do I have here? We got some old carrots and stuff that didn't really make the cut. There's some of that we could have eaten. Also in here, we have a bunch of old spinach. You know, the stuff that was grown out too much. And, you know, we could eat it if we wanted. It's just a little bitter. But the chickens love this stuff, right? So this is part of the induction method. We're trying to get them accustomed to eating primarily this, along with the biota in this compost. But folks, I don't want to get too far ahead because we've lost so many people in the past trying to explain this system. And just stick with me through the end, folks, because I'm going to tell you why this, by far, is the most consequential chicken growing system on the planet, in my opinion. Okay, folks, this here is comfrey. We got so much of it. You might be able to see some in the back of it. We got it everywhere, and that's by design. I could go into the benefits of comfrey, but we'll cover that in another video. So this comfrey, we're going to stick in there too. Now, in this system and in the future, you're going to think I'm crazy, but honestly, I could have them, I'll clearly need more. I could have them survive largely on what you just saw in there. But because they're still in that induction phase, we got to add another component. This is basically fermented feed with rice mixed in it. Now, my son, being the genius that he is, we couldn't figure out at first why we couldn't get them over quickly to eating food scraps. Well, he said, you know what, let's put rice in there. It resembles maggots. Let's see if it works. And folks, not only did it worked amazingly. So that's going to go out here too. So there's rice and there's some fermented feed in here. Now, they're not going to completely leave this feed until we flip this compost. Folks, stick around. I'm telling you, this is all going to make sense here in a little while. There's a reason for this. So once at this time next week, this compost cage you see is going to go away and it's going to be repositioned further down the hill. Then we're going to flip this compost. Okay, now that that's done, let's kind of give you an overview. Remember, I told you we had an 18-day compost. This is essentially a 30-day compost. Let me explain how that works. All right, let's talk about the compost in this system. Okay, 18-day, go watch those videos and you'll realize that that whole process from start to finish is 18 days. Now, this process here in this chicken tractor on steroids system is about a 30-day process. Now, let me explain the difference. Like I said before, information was hard to come by, and we had to experiment with this system over and over and over to get a system that works great without the use of cow manure, which is what Jeff Lawton had initially in his system. Well, that's why we do the layering process. We have a carbon layer, then there's nitrogen. With them, whatever they don't eat is covered up by the next day's carbon layer. Nitrogen, carbon, so on and so forth. You get the point. The difference is, in this system, compared to the other one, think about it. In an 18-day compost, you're going to put your hands on that compost pile, flipping, whatever, 8, maybe 9 times. And let's say it needs to be refined. You could be as many as 10 or 12 times if you know, just learning how to do it. Here's the beauty about this system. And you're going to see it unfold right before your eyes. Instead of putting our hands on this thing 9 times in 18 days, or 8, 7, whatever the case may be, we're only going to put our hands on this 4 times in a month. And the chickens are going to do all the rest of it for us. Sound crazy? It's not, and it works. Last time we did this, we did it with meat birds, and they produced, I think, 21 cubic yards of compost. Folks, that is impressive. It really is, and they do all the work. So that's one of the many benefits to this system, is that it takes you out of the compost making system, produces what Jeff Lawton thinks is even higher quality compost, and the chickens do 90% of the work. They do compost shredding on a whole new level. So that's one cool component. Now we're going to get these birds out and we're going to talk about what they do in this system and why, instead of using exclusively meat birds, we're using dual purpose birds. All right, this gang is happy, as you can tell. Now, imagine for a moment, you're going to see them eat primarily their fermented chick food, or it's not really fermented, let's call it hydrated store-bought chick food, along with the rice. Okay, that's important because you're wondering, like, well, why did you put the greens out here? It's just like if you were to take a kid to a buffet and you let them loose, they're going to eat the things they want to eat first. And then if they get hungry enough, they're going to come back and eat this stuff. It tastes great, but less filling, so to speak. You get the point. But I promise you, by close of business today, every bit of this green will be gone. In fact, I'm probably going to have to add more to it, because despite how small they are, these guys pack a punch. And plus, they're making that transition before in the past, one of the mistakes we made was we did it cold turkey. They were eating store-bought food one day, and then next thing you know, they were eating food scraps. So just like going from a regular diet to a keto diet, they had the same effect. So if we, through this induction phase, which will end the moment we flip this cage, they're making that transition. They're doing it gradually. And by doing this, we found out that it is a much, much better way of doing it. Now let's talk about these birds. In the past, I've been asked, can you use Cornish crosses in this system? And in this system, I'm going to tell you in the most resounding way, no. You need birds that can move material, and that's going to unfold in the reasons why here over the coming weeks. I need birds that are at least dual purpose. They can't be those, garden variety, they look good kind of birds. They need to be birds that will, A, forage. That is critical in this system. And they also need to be birds that are honestly very well suited for this environment. They got to be able to make the transition of not only eating the carbs, there's a lot of protein in comfrey, but I'm just giving you an example, to not only eat the carbohydrates, which is largely what we're going to provide, but be able to go through these compost piles and extract the protein they need. Folks, I know that there seems a lot going on here, but go back and watch this video as often as you need. Probably nobody on the planet has tested this system and has put it more to work than us. Okay, so these birds are the ones we hatched from our rooster, and they're all, I don't even know what breed most of them are, because I really don't know. I mean, I could figure it out to some extent, but by and large, every bird you see here is a dual purpose bird that we didn't buy, that we procured right here on the property. So, just so you kind of get a sense of things, from start to finish, the only input cost that we have in this whole system was the cost of that feed that you see right there. 2 bags is basically what we need, and by the time it's all said and done, by the time they're on food scraps, I would have only need 1.5 bags of organic feed. Pretty impressive. Now, let's talk about the next components. All right, folks, I'm going to go through, and this is probably the most important component of this entire video. Take a look around you. And by and large, most people aren't talking about it, certainly not in the mainstream. But you look at commodity prices, and they are going through the roof. Price of fuel, going through the roof. There's even much talk about a chicken shortage out there. And then beef prices, because of the corn prices and everything else going through the roof, those are going to go through the roof as well. We were recently asked by one of our awesome viewers, can permaculture feed the world? I may be paraphrasing that, but you get the point. And the answer is yes, but it needs to start on the most local levels. And folks, of all the systems out there, this isn't some specialized crazy system that we do just because it looks cool. It's because it works. And folks, we can ultimately get to this system, and we are already there where we can take the food scraps on this farm along with the biota in this compost and raise all of the meat we need endlessly right here on this farm. At the same time, producing more high quality compost that you can't possibly buy anywhere. So within this system, folks, think about it. With the composting element and with the protein element that you can take out of it, you could do this indefinitely. Now, can you do it by yourself? Yeah, we're going to show you that you can do it in this closed space on your own farm, but you got to have systems set up. Check out a book called The Independent Farmstead, Sean and Beth Doherty, to figure out how you can take components of theirs to add to your farm to do that very thing concerning your omnivores. You can do this in terms of community by partnering with some of your local businesses. Now, a lot of them are going to tell you, hey, it ain't legal. But folks, the way I'm looking at it, there are things in this world called unjust laws. And if it doesn't make sense to me, I'll tell you straight, I'm not playing along with it. You're going to tell me that it's okay to drop a lot of this stuff in a dumpster, but we can't use it, even though it's perfectly fine for human consumption, to feed to our animals? I guess you just send my mail to the county jail, because I'm not playing that game. So anyway, this system can, in fact, feed so many communities, and I'm going to prove it as we unfold this system. I could indefinitely hatch eggs and transfer those birds to this system, simultaneously taking out the protein I need. I could keep this thing going indefinitely. Now, could I do it by myself? Absolutely, because when I was working out the bugs in this system, I had 3 chicken tractors on steroids going simultaneously, doing all the work by myself at that particular time, just figuring out how to make this thing work. This system alone could in fact change the world, and I'm not overstating it. Don't believe me? Go back, watch it 2 times. We've already done it. This time we're doing it even better, and then the iterations after this, we're going to do it even better in a closed loop system. Folks, this is what I'm hoping more than anything to communicate throughout this video, that we are on shaky ground. I dare say a knife's edge in terms of what's going on in this country. We need independent food systems, delocalized, decentralized food systems that people can produce not only on your own farm, but if you need the help as a community. That's not only what we're doing here. We're teaching you how to do this. And also, if you need help with this, employ other people. Maybe you have the land. Bring people out there that can do the physical labor if you can't. Perhaps you have the land. I don't need to go through all the different ways this could be adapted. But folks, we're going to show you in short order how this system alone could feed entire communities, and I dare say feed the planet, and I'm not overstating it. So folks, I know that I've unpacked a lot of information in this one video, and the reason why is because they're going to be in this system for another week, and then we're going to flip the compost, and then it's full steam ahead into the official chicken tractor on steroids. And folks, we hope you stick along, because we're going to produce some outstanding compost, and we're going to produce birds that aren't as big as your typical broilers, but are plenty big enough when you're trying to put them in the freezer. So, folks, I know we dropped a lot, but hang in there. Watch this system. Watch this extraordinary compost unfold. Watch these chickens get fat in a system that is so extraordinarily awesome. So, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy from Perma Pastures Farm. Folks, remember, subscribe. This is a groundbreaking system. We're doing more work on it than anybody else on the planet. So spread it out there to the people out there in these communities that can make this work. Use your social media. Use whatever you need to get this information far and wide, because this is astonishing stuff. So until next time, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy from Perma Pastures Farm, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. And folks, honestly, it's systems like this that make it all worth it. We'll see you next time.